Okay, welcome to a restorative retreat. I want to call this one. So, what you'll need is a couple blankets at the back of your mat, a bolster in the center across, and a low height block in front of your bolster. Okay, you're going to sit on the block and you might be facing a wall space. I want you to have a wall space nearby and have your belt in a big loop. Buckle it up, make it in a loop, place it beside you, and you'll have your extra block, and you might have a ball, a massage ball, and then a sandbag. Okay, so if you don't have some of those props, you can just ignore those comments of adding them. But the most important part is you've got kind of this mixing bowl in the center, right? Your pelvis is the mixing bowl, and it's obviously what helps us move. Okay, so when we lower back in what looks like a non-moving experience, I want you to lean back so the block is under the back of your pelvis, right? It's not under your back. What is under your back is the bolster. So this might be an instruction I think I haven't really given, to be honest. Generally in this one, you might be thinking the bolster is a little lower, but I want it to be high enough that your ribs, surprisingly, having that pressure below helps spread out the ribs and likely is a little easier on our back muscles versus having the bolster too far down. So walk the feet in, turn the feet in so that the knees draw in to touch each other, and then let that pelvic basin just simply center as you prepare the pose here. Okay, so taking a sandbag across the ribs. Option one, sand goes here. Option two, sand is down across the thigh lids. Okay, you have two sandbags, you can add one to each zone. And if you decide you need to keep the knees bending, that's fine. You can still have the sand at the top of the thighs here. So as I mentioned, the pelvic basin, it's kind of a mixing bowl of sorts of coordination in our day. So as I lengthen back, sand wherever it is or nowhere, and stretch the chest open via setting the arms in just the right orientation outwards and down. Let the shoulders release back, and then gently coordinate the cycle of your breath through the nose. And if this is a new study for you, the emphasis, especially on the exhale with the nose, just be kind to the process. Maybe that doesn't occur most of the time. Maybe it occurs occasionally just by chance. Okay, your feet can step apart if this is a lot on the knees to have this much elongation with sand on the top of the thighs. You might have to also walk the feet back in for a few moments just to get the chest to stretch wide enough that your back is feeling healthy with the legs extending down. So we begin with that gentle coordination of our breath, combining the inhale, the ribs expand, filling up, and on the out breath, however it releases, nose or mouth, maybe you feel like it goes out through both. That's interesting, huh? But that portal of awareness, right, in the breathing cycle starts to settle the mind just a little bit. So scan the feeling in the upper back, the broadness. Even if it's pressing a bit onto the bolster, just let go where the body touches the bolster. See if you can let the bolster be of ultimate support for you. But we want this one to be considering our breathing muscles. So feeling that stretch of the breathing muscles, the ribs, relaxing the face. And if you have two blankets under your head, this might be a time you feel like you can trust the neck being supported enough by sliding one of the blankets back. And again, if it's too much, you just bring back the blanket under your head. And this way I have a little bit of a tilt, and if I touch the back of my neck, I can feel just that elongation, kind of the natural extension of the spine all the way up to the brainstem. Clearly, the weight of my brain relaxes. This might feel nice on the face, just the skin cells of the face, that little bit more heat with one less blanket. Okay, let's take a few more breaths here with the focus changing with the legs. So if you have sand on the thighs, you can keep the sand there when we change the foot orientation. It might be tricky. Some of us might decide to just get rid of it or to place it up across the ribs. So walk the feet in. So when you coordinate that movement of the pelvis, it is pelvic motion a little bit. You're going to slide the feet so the soles of the feet are together and the knees are motioning out. Okay, and if you know of yourself that the hip flexors, the top of the thigh, front rim of the femur, that area is a little bit restricted at the muscles above it, right out from the femur. You might find the sand down at the hips is kind of interesting. You know, it doesn't feel like it's going to fall off, but it's definitely pushing. Right? You can also place it up across the rib intersection. But at this moment, let the arms either settle out or reach the hands overhead to hold on to the elbows. You can always add your blanket back, but this is a practice. So you kind of explore. We each explore a little different, right? Some of us will stay on the pose. Some of us will wander and come back and forth. But try as you can to stick with the process here. It's a sticky process, right? The body it can feel kind of stuck. So now if I have my arms overhead, I change the arm crossing. If my arms are out to the side, I don't have to do a thing. I can just breathe. Now feeling that fallout of the leg muscles. Right, this is a pretty high point of pressure in our legs when they join at the soles of the feet. A lot of tone. Okay, and now let's release this position. So you'll take the sand off to the side, and you can kind of feel how the legs are parked this way. So when I lift up the knees and keep the feet centered, I'm just going to walk the feet a little bit toe heel to about hips distance and lift the left foot up and cross the left ankle to the right knee. Just stay simple. So I got my block under me still. I'm not pulling my feet up towards me. I'm just allowing that inner leg on the left side to kind of flop open, okay? Flop is good on this one. A good hip flop. We can call this one the hip flop. So the right foot might do its own little behavior so that you have an easier time of it. That might turn in, you might sickle the foot. So try to feel through the heel and stream down into the ball of the foot the best that you can manage, being on your back, kind of upside down. Okay, not a lot of wiggling around. So the sacroiliac area is getting a little bit of pull over to the left side, tipping at the posterior. And then when I come back in center, I'm going to uncross, but just feel what it's like when the knee shifts into the midline. That kind of wrap of pressure in the left upper leg, and then step it down. And when you get ready to shift sides, first feel the pressure of both feet. Lift up the right foot, engage in the lower abdominals. When you pull, you're only doing a small movement. It's hard to move the tailbone under on this one. So I just cross the right ankle to the left knee and allow the right thigh to motion out. The hip flop. Okay. So if the spine feels like it's natural to let the arms open out, that's fine. I kind of get curious about how to apply kind of my field of focus. So I might be pointing at my hip bones, resting on my torso, so I can complete each breath, not holding and waiting for another opportunity, just here breathing. Okay, the left knee is going to likely push a little bit out. Yeah, and that might feel like, oh, that's helpful. But see if you can keep it as well mannered as possible, not steering it too far out afield here. Okay. So there's a little bit more tone at the very upper attachment of the thigh into the hip. Okay, and now we're going to flush it out a little bit. So as you take away that position with the right ankle, step down and then lift up the heels. So you're at the balls of the feet. You're going to reach around to the bolster. Now, at this point, we should all be down to one blanket just for this next cycle. So if you had to for the last cycle of poses, just push one of them back. And then as I lift up, if you don't like your block under you, you can slide it aside. But I don't mind. It's not going to bother me. So as I lean back, I let my neck lengthen. Like if you were coming into a shoulder stand, you got to trust here. And then I'm going to push the bolster just a little bit, just so it's under the back of my pelvis. Okay. So if you go too far down, it's more challenging to get the bolster back up. So start with little movements. And then if the back of your pelvis centered on the bolster, the tailbone is almost to the edge of the bolster. So when I lift up my feet, my knees hugging in a bit, you'll probably feel like, kind of on the edge of that. Is that correct? So I don't want your bolster too far down. So you should feel like, yes, I am on the edge. And then when the legs go up, right, it's a little more comforting for the back. It's not easy, but it's have that bolster so it supports that stretch here in the pelvis. It's kind of interesting, just lying on a bolster for the hips. Gonna push out with the back of the pelvis, broaden just to lie on it. Okay, take a block or a ball. So that means if you don't have a ball, you'll want to use your other block. If there's one below your bolster, just grab the other one and place it between the knees. And if the legs are straight-ish, they're kind of straightish here, it's going to be a little odd. Like, is that between my knees, right? Is that because you feel knees often when they're bending, right? But it's between on the inside layer. Okay. And then finding that simple shape, I want you to have a very mild squeeze of the ball or the block, very mild, almost nothing. And you're going to bring the hands so they hold the sides of the bolster, or you're in goalpost position. Either is fine. I kind of like to protect, so I hold the bolster just in case. And then as I hinge at the knees, you can always kind of flow between goalpost, bolster hold. Okay. Hinging at the knees, you're going to very kind of seriously, you're going to move the knees side to side, but explore. Let this be a little discovery time, where when your knees go side to side, they also have the opportunity to move closer to the floor or closer to your arm, that the direction they're going to. So when I swing the knees over to my left, I like to make kind of a scooping action, moving my knees towards the arm. Okay. I also like the crossover where I just put the legs closer to the floor. But go a little slower each time. So start to recruit kind of mysterious core muscles, especially the side band. And then feeling when the knees go across, even if they go towards your arm or just towards the floor, the side of the torso that's towards the ceiling has the stretch. So you might get a little more creative. And even if the knees go to the side, you might actually move them a little bit downstream. So you get an interesting sense of the obliques and the QL right in the back side, right? So get a feeling of where this is extending. and how the spine is adapting, right? It's getting a little bit more loosened up, right? As far as movement tracking into the hip, adjacent to the, the thoracolumbar area. Okay, so now I'm letting my arms just go out. The goalpost didn't work for me after a while. So take a few more moments here as you let the legs go side to side. Feeling when you hold on to something between the knees, it maintains that support for the back. If the legs are sort of they contribute to the movement like the pelvis would. It's nice to have legs, right? When you motion side to side like this, gives your upper body a bit of a stretch. Okay. Now, next time you come back in center, if your head was going side to side, that would have been great too. But stay with the mid position. Yeah, and you might scoot your hips a little bit down. Use the bolster to help open up the chest, right, as much as you can, any of these opportunities. And take a hold of your belt, and we'll lift up the legs with the ball or block between, circle the feet. Yeah, see how circular they can be with their reaction. Noticing if they turn in, if that's any bit of circulation. That feels stiffer for me if I move the feet to turn in. Right, likely our habit of turning out with the feet in this action is a little easier, but it can get tiring because you tend to have your feet under you in one plane, even though they're not planes. Right now you could visualize they are, I suppose. Okay, so take the ball out and let's bring the belt to both feet, may as well. We got 2 feet and we got our belt. Now, if it's connected up in a loop, that's great, but it's not required to hold that much extension right now. But I do want you to try just pushing the feet out, and you might even just hold on to the loop. And as you have a grasp of the belt, feel the feet and the leg pattern moving a little bit downwards. Okay, you might work with some of these instructions. Take them in, maybe close your eyes and see what occurs versus comparing. Just feel and kind of soak in your home practice. Feel the belly move with the breath. And noticing where there may be some areas that are kind of vacant with sensation, right? You can feel when you bring the legs back up and isolate one side. So we'll slide the feet together. Hold on to the belt closer, maybe closer up towards the knees, right? Maybe you're a little lower. But when you slip the left foot out and extend it down, I want you to take, the option here would be the sand on the left thigh. Here's another option though, if you don't use sand, is you have to kind of reset yourself for a moment, but you could get closer to the wall and have your foot at the wall, and that would kind of enable you to keep some nice balance in the hips. It's even better actually if you have the wall, huh? Probably even more so than the sand, but those are some ideas you can use. And the bolster would still be used if my foot was at the wall. Just have to finagle getting there. So here I am with sand on the top of the left thigh. And as I hold on, I'm going to take the loop, and looks like I have it way too big. Okay, and I'm going to tighten it down and then place it to the back of my occipital zone. And for some of us, when we put the belt to the back of our head, think of it as the shelf that you're putting your belt on, the brain shelf. Okay, so don't make it too tight. That's intense. And as I place it there, right, I don't want it to go around my neck at all, like at all. So if it's a little higher and it holds, that's great. It's going to feel the same from one leg to the next on the support of your head, but it does create this curious traction across the back of the brain here, all the way down through the cranial, right, the cranial nerve. So as the arms open out, it's kind of an interesting craniosacral connection, because obviously the leg is up, so there's going to be a pulley system in that side of the pelvis. Yeah, and just be careful the belt's not too tight here for you, especially the hamstring association, right? Your hamstring association is calling to you. Okay. Answer their call. So the sand could be straight down, it could be kind of diagonal, and you just could put it away. Right? You choose. Sometimes closer to the knee feels interesting on this version. And my torso gets a little worried on the back of the pelvis, so I want to make it a proper support. So there's a little work going on. So let's time this one for about another minute. And with that lift of the leg, I find that trance of focus here with the weight of your head leaning back. It might even touch the blanket. You still have something supporting you. If you don't like the belt at your head, there is an option. This is the option. So you would place the hands on the side of your head, take the belt with your hands. The belt's between the webbing of the thumb and the index fingers, and you stretch back. This is satisfying too. Okay, so you choose. Okay. So with that reach of the leg, okay, let's reach for the belt to the side of our head. And just so that you find that it's stable. So what's likely is you're going to tilt your head to the side the leg is being held. It's going to like tip. So what I want you to do is slide the sand off and hold the back of your skull so it's centered. Slip the left foot up into the belt, bring the knees to bending, and then change sides. So caution, we don't want a jolting tug on our neck. So just slow. We know we won't do that, but as the right leg stretches down, it's kind of this leg reach. Left leg is up. Sometimes this is better when you don't watch yourself do it, right? You could close your eyes and just kind of trust that it's simple. Leg, belt, right leg down. Maybe sand gets moved over. Right, kind of working with the props like you're sensing it all like braille or something, right? You're okay, there's the bolster. Here's the sense of my other prop on my head. You know, just kind of be a little tactile about it. Maybe touch the back of your head and kind of feel where the belt feels supportive. It's likely identical to the first side. I think your second side with the belt, it might be the same on your head. But your leg juncture might be different. You might push the back of the knee naturally, so you have to be a little cautious here. It's kind of a micro bend. Okay. And if the leg wants to push and you want to kind of feel that, see what happens when your head moves back. And then the right hip has got to stretch. Arms relaxing outwards. And we're breathing. Breathe for yourself. Yeah, be curious if the calf feels a little bit more kind of developed in its sensation. If there's so many areas you can scatter your attention, you can focus it. If you're kind of a little scattered, this is good time just to stay with the sacred time and your practice. Just give these things a try. Okay, restoring. Bring your hands to the back of your head. I'm just telling my body it's restoring. Okay, so hands hold now the sides of the belt at the sides of your head so you can push the belt back. I like to really let my head push into the belt. And then when my head goes down to the blanket, now I'm going to bring the belt sides together and slide the sand. And now cross the left leg to the right. So I'm going to reach up with my right hand and grab a hold of the belt, but just simply feel that the belt is simply an extension of my leg, right? That would look weird, huh? This is not a leg, but the leg is extending across because of the belt. So if I could do this without the belt likely, but it would be nearly as good. It would be definitely frustrating. So when I hold, I like to find that I know there's resistance, there's the structure of stretch, but restorative yoga is, the hope is that it's about openings. It's about creating openings, using the props to kind of help your circulation. That's the gist of it. So if you're trying to get more intense stretch, see if you can back off and just get the right amount. Don't overdose on it. Stretching overdose. Okay, so feeling if the right hip, it's kind of cornered on the bottom. Like if you feel the right leg reaching down, you can shake your foot a bit. It's an interesting cycle into my right hip. I'm trying to keep my right side pretty stable. No twisty on the right side. Okay, bend the left knee. And I would just encourage you to bring the knee right up center, and then right foot goes up into the belt, left leg, it just had the side kind of pulled, right? So as you lower it down, you might shake out your foot, your leg. Okay, try to isolate one leg over the other. Tricky, left hand holds the belt. Center the chest. You're centering the left hip. So this left hip is not rolling, and it's probably not rolling because your bolster. If you didn't have your bolster under you, you'd roll over to the side on this hip. So one buttock may not have the same action as the other. So for me, my left hip feels a little different. It's kind of squirmy. So I'm going to try to keep it centered, maybe right arm open. So you feel that right heel reaching across to the left. Breathing. The leg can go down below hip height, right, the hip level. You don't have to have it straight across. If you try that, it might feel like it pings up in your quad, like it's not a good reaction. So find what works for you to just simply open up that side of the leg. Trusting the body kind of processing. Let's give it a few more breaths. Okay, the pelvis has had a lot of support with something under it. So as we cycle into bending the right knee, we're going to shift. So this leg, when it crosses over, we're going to be kind of working with this leg in a moment, pushing it back. So as you bring the right knee in center, let's just slide the left foot in, knee bending, take the belt off your right foot, and let both legs swing straight up. It's not swinging the legs, it's just kick them up. Shake them out. Okay, a little tantrum. Okay, floppy feet. All right, so feel how the feet push up. Feel the energetic of the lower back. This requires low back flexibility and leg flexibility a lot. So if it's a little shaky for you, or if you try to teach your friends and it's shaky for them, it requires some practice to get to this. Some bodies can do it easily too. So as you bend the knees, okay, we're gonna let the hips move. Now remember the pelvis is kind of the mixing bowl, right? It provides us movement. But in restorative, it's kind of funny because we're not walking very much in restorative. So we don't feel that. But when you roll to the left side, feel how there's the lower body pulls, the upper body doesn't know what to do. So just let the upper body roll 2 to the left. And then slide down, watch out for any blocks in your way, any roadblocks. And then take that block aside, and we're going to set up for side sage. But I'm going to give an extra little piece of movement you could do before you get into it. So those of you that have the ball, you could do this if you have like a tennis ball too, or anything, but probably a lacrosse ball would be too much. You could put the ball to your back so that you slide a little forward, and then just circle a little bit of motion across the back, so massaging to the back. Another option, if you don't have a ball, would be elbows on the bolster and knees windshield wipe, just side to side, windshield wiper legs. This is interesting. It's not pushing in my back, I understand, but it's definitely creating this movement reality in the body, swishing side to side. So you choose one of those two, or observe the opportunity to do this. You can always watch, okay? But when I push into the ball, it pretty much stays centered, and I'm moving around it. Just like if my elbows are on the bolster, it's centered and I'm moving down below it, okay? So let's switch to the left. If you've got the ball, you're going to reuse it maybe. You can use a ball or a block on the inside of the right knee. If you're using a block, low height, okay? And this leg we just had crossed over, and so the side tissues had a little bit of heat. So now I want you to work with that right leg down below so it relaxes down into the ball or block, okay? If you choose not to use anything, that's okay. Some people find that works out. Okay, grab a hold of your sand, place it on the right hip, and then when I lean into the bolster, now I'm working on the contour of my ribs. So blanket stack could be this low. This is kind of low, actually. You could fold up your blanket one more time. But when you lean into your blankets, and actually everything, you're leaning into yourself. You're going to stretch the right arm overhead. Maybe kitty corner with the block. Maybe right hand is not on anything overhead. Maybe it's on the blankets or on your hip, on the bolster. So first find where your support could be. Yep, that's right. And feel that reach in the waist with your breath. So once you arrive, one of the things that could be really helpful is to relax your head even more. And then to feel the movement of your breath. And it even moves up into the upper lobes of the lungs, right? You can feel the breath kind of escape, just feeling it tight in the center, but spreading out. Using the breath as a stretching tool. That weight of your brain rests down. It's kind of a constant. Unfortunately, it likes to lift up sometimes when it hears something too. I think that's part of this. The weight of the head down. Okay, now, for those of us that have our arm reaching, take a few moments without reaching, right? Because it is going to pull something, right? So you might find, oh, well, my head was holding more. Just to keep that reach, it likely has some tone. So the arm could be on the side, it could be resting on the bolster. It could be stretching a little bit back to open your chest. Like you could bend your right arm, place that to your back, the hand on the back. But don't overdo. I feel the necessary release of your head down to the blanket. I keep catching myself just kind of holding my neck a little bit. Then I say let go and it lets go. And then next thing I know, I'm holding it again. The human condition. Okay, now when you do come out, we're gonna go prone. We're gonna go prone. So let the sand fall off the back of the hip. And then when you roll to hands and knees focus, let's keep it real simple with the support. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn the bolster so it's lengthwise underneath you, okay? And when you turn back into the shape, just let the hands be on the floor besides the bolster. And if the blankets are kind of close in, just push them away. And lengthen the front of the torso so the hips gently lay onto the bolster, like an upward facing dog, but it's very supported, okay? So hands spread out the fingers. Yeah, feel interesting, kind of the pressure of the hands and the arms supporting the structure of the torso, lengthening to create that length. And then when you lower down, elongate through the torso, but stretch the hands back off the floor so the arms are bent sides, shoulders back in locust position. So we are really working our lower back. I am using the wall to push my feet into. It's amazing how much that supports you to actually stay lifted, right? Your feet are a huge part of your spine support, even when you're kind of prone. You're prone to it. Okay, now bring your elbows out wide, forward, out to the sides, pile them up on your blanket pile up, and then bring your forehead down to your hands, to your handstand. So forehead down, and simply connect to the ribs movement of breath. Just give a few moments here. Now lifting your head just the smallest amount. Slide the hands back besides your bolster so they seem to be kind of under the shoulders. You know, that line. And then just see if you can roll the shoulders back and still lift up a little bit with the chest. Cobra, right? So cobras don't have limbs, right? So you're trying to work with that spine strength. Okay, now we have limbs, right? So we'll stretch out the fingers, come up to table. You choose, you can come back towards a child's pose of choice, like forehead to the bolster, hips are still high, or you can come back to downward dog, lift the knees up and feel the heels lifted up the wall. You don't have to walk up the wall unless you're feeling so strong you'd like to walk up your wall, but feel the heels lifted at the edge of the wall. Makes it a little easier in my legs, but not my arms. Now they have more weight. So you can adjust. You can bend your knees. It's like puppy pose. You can walk your hands back a little bit. Mostly I want you to feel the circulation into your face, though, into your brain. And if you touch onto your bolster with your head, that's okay. Yeah, in restorative yoga, there's a whole cycle of shapes focusing on head touching the bolster or stack up blankets on the bolster. So you're not tightening up as much. Okay, now come down to hands and knees now and gently arch through the spine, chest forward, round through the back, cat pose, chin to chest. Toes can be curled under or the top of the foot could be flat. I like to try both. Okay, now next time you feel, toes under, you might have a little more felt sense of I can move my tailbone, right? But just notice if you can still recruit that with the top of the foot down. Really work on that mobility of the pelvis. Okay, one more time. Inhale, arching. If you're on the opposite part of the breath, enjoy. Okay, now push a little bit back, turn your bolster. Okay, lots of space between the bolster and the blankets. And scoot up. Now, if you decide, well, I kind of like that windshield wiper last time, you could do that before the next side stage. You could get the ball to the back. It's got to be pretty close to you, though. You don't want the ball back on the other side of the bolster. It will just fall off. You got to get it to touch into your back and kind of the teeth of the ball kind of grab onto your back. Well, hopefully your top or whatever you've got on. Okay. So now you can also go right to side stage. I'm just enjoying getting circulation between. I enjoy the practice. Okay. So go to the other side. Now, another way when you come into this right hip, you're going to try to get this left leg to swing back. So that's why windshield wiper is kind of a good one to do too. You get a feeling of the movement behavior of the leg out of the pelvis. When the movement of the leg helps the pelvis, the circulation. It's all so important. So ball the inside of the left knee or a block. Now when I lean in, my bolster tends to move, so I have to stay a little more disciplined. So I try to get the torso side, the side of my torso to lean. And then as I get down to my blankets, if you were tightening in your neck a lot on the last one, you realized you had to kind of keep reminding yourself to release. Maybe more blanket would be suitable for you. You could try it on the second side and just see, I don't have to remind myself quite as much to relax my head. So sand can go lengthwise, it can go across. Now I get into this habit of just whatever feels like it holds. Not one that feels like it's getting more stretch, because the weight of the sand, whatever is under it, is going to be pressed and create a little openness. So you just trust whatever position it is that holds is best. Okay, so right arm is down between the bolster and the blankets. Left arm is overhead. Now my frame might look a little different because I want to make sure everything's all right. I look towards the screen a bit, but you don't have to. So you can let the side of your neck. Yeah, this feels so much better for me to have more blanket. I just kept holding and little grips, little twitches of holding. So you might even massage onto your neck with your hand. This would be a good one if you had a tennis ball nearby, because you could just massage your neck with it, or any of those therapy balls, the small ones. This ball, the larger one, would not work for that way. It would be very awkward. Okay, let your head go. Left arm overhead, maybe. Move the block where it feels okay for your shoulder joint. And maybe if you reach up, it's too much on the neck, so you have to have your hand down. So you decide. But really let the weight of your brain, skull, all of that stuff, your head, let it go. And if your left arm is down, whether it's bolstered or it's up on the blanket, maybe feel if you can nudge it a little bit across so that that deltoid gets a little bit of stretch, just a little bit openness in the upper back. Just kind of let it melt. Relax the buttock on the left side. Don't try to grip it. Take a few more moments here. Breathing slow. Okay, now as we shift, and we're going to purposely go into some side reaches that are continuous with the pelvis at the base. And so when you slide the sand off, let's move it over to the left. So let it drop left, just goes down easily, ready for the next episode. Okay, so with that length, it's not, you don't have to tug or pull, but use the bolster under you to naturally create that, just the right amount of stretch in your torso. So as I roll to the right, okay, I'm gonna come on up, go ahead and come on up and place the blanket. So actually they can just be there. You don't have to do anything with them, but when you come up to sitting on the bolster, this is a little particular. And so we're going to take a block in the front and place it so it's flat, okay? And then you'll place your right foot on top of the block. Okay, you got all these other props around life and you might use them. So I like to come up to the bolster and kind of be in this feeling of a wide seat, okay? Like I want to fill up my bolster with me to be stretched across it. So now the left knee, for some of us, we're going to find that we can pull the left foot in with our right hand and bring it close to the bolster, but for some, that's going to feel too much on the knee. So what you could do is put a block or a ball under that left knee. I just want to give you an awareness that we're going to take a twist, a journey through twisting. So you might end up moving your ball out or do a variation on it if it's too much. But it's interesting, when the foot is pulled to the bolster, sometimes it works okay. When you twist, it'll feel different than if you're sitting forward with the knee. So don't give up hope. Okay, so ball for me is under the knee or block, and the sand on the top of the left thigh. And then I want you to take your block or nothing. You don't have to have a block on this one, but I'm going to use it for the floor to come up to me more. So my left hand is on the block. Besides my left side, the bolster, I'm going to push the block or my hand on the floor out, and then stretch the right arm up and over the right side of my face. So the right foot is on the block, right? The foot is turned out and the right knee is open, but just purposely feel that awareness of the side elongating. So that reach through the side. Good. So that movement of the arm goes up and then it goes a little left, right? Just up and then tilting. And you might come back up and kind of go a little bit side to side and just feel the buoyancy with the breathing and that nuance of reacting to leaning into the left side. So you could do it on the floor, the left hand down. It's different. The block could be lower. I like a block under my hand for the torso to have a little more rise. I know it's an interesting body to work with, huh? Okay, now when you come up with the rotation, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a sampler. So the left hand to the right knee, just below the knee, right hand back on the blanket and twist. Okay, so you know, kind of feel how the ribs, it's almost like you feel like they have a head to them that they're turning, you know, like rib head. So turning. Okay. This is twist one option. Twist two option would be to move the left knee down, okay, without the ball under it, and to keep the sand up high, and to help the right leg cross over on the side of the left knee. Okay, what's the point of that? Well, it's an interesting question, right? Because if I have my foot here, I can twist, I'm twisting, right? So it's a different a massage into the organs, right? This is a little bit different. They're both good, but I find I like them for different reasons. So this though has a different collision right in my abdominals, my lower abdominals. I let it relax. I try to strengthen the diaphragm via this arm pressure, and then it coordinates into how I reach the right hand back. You could get the sandbag handle. That's a really nice way to go with it, and twist. Okay, and try to feel that the spine has a motion in and up. So if you can layer the breath on the in-breath, lifting up, and the out-breath, twisting. Okay, if your left shoulder is getting tired, just hold the right knee. No big deal. It does feel like more happens with your arm against the leg in the torso. And there's a little more compression. And then when you come out, that fresh circulation really pulls into the organs, right? So that's another reason we do the twist. We push, and then that circulation kind of inhale and holds, and then exhale, all that circulation flows back into the areas that you were compressing. So it's pretty good science here. So give it a few more moments. If you're holding onto the handle and getting tired of that, just place the hand on the blankets. Feel the shoulder working back and in. Good work on twists though, they're good for us. So use this to have that abundance of smart circulation here in the core. And then come back and center, turn back forward. So with that twisting, we're going to take the sand off. If your foot was on the block during that, you'll just slide the feet apart and hold on to your block with your feet. So here's what we're going to do is we'll take the block. So it's either in the lowest setting, which is actually more challenging on this one, or it's narrow. I tend to go. So the block is, it's actually at its second setting, but it's narrow. And I bring the knees out. Of course, they don't have any choice but to go outwards. And I take a moment where I lift up with the hands holding just below the knees, thumbs kind of wrap around to squeeze into the legs. And thumbs are good for that on this one. Thumbs are good little pressure points here, pushing. And then see if you can lean a little forward. You give it a try. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you want to slide your feet farther out in front of you, and that's okay. Okay, but you can tell again how some of these shapes are. We get into them. There's a compressive energy around the joint. You can kind of feel the stretch motion in the joints area. And then come up. And I like this one. I like to slide my feet a little farther forward. Okay. Lift the chest up. Inhale. And exhale. Take one more time, reaching forward. If the block is, if you're noticing it's kind of funny on the ankles, just take the block out and see. Is that better for my ankles? You choose. Some teacher taught this to me, and then I, of course, we kind of carry it on. So you get to decide what's best for you. Okay. Now take a short twist from to the right side one more time. Left hand to right knee. Feet together, knees out, block between the feet maybe. Okay, come back center and right hand to left knee. Haven't gone to this side yet, huh? Or you've been on this side today, I'm sure, but you know. Okay, so take a moment, just let the elbows be by the sides, twisting, just like your normal pattern of twisting. And maybe the right side that we've moved to has a little bit more circulation. Who knows? Right foot motions in. I'm going to put a ball under my right knee, block under my left foot. and relax the knee out. Okay, so take the block or no block to the right side. Hopefully you've got a little space over there. You're gonna push out with the right hand on the block and stretch the left arm over the left side. Right, so feeling the in-breath giving you some lift in that reach of the left arm. Okay, you can always tip back or tip forward, right? So you want to find the right balance for you. A little back, a little forward. Mix it up. So turning your head down to the right arm. Okay, now that this left side has had this length, right, we're going to twist into it towards the spleen, right? So this is the direction. So I go left, right hand to left knee, twist. Now you might change it up. You might take your sand to the right thigh. Okay, you might go, oh, I want the sand. Okay, so place it on the right thigh and then cross the left leg over. You can also have sand on thigh, foot on block. Yeah. So you might get into the knee pointing up, the right knee is down. If it's not down on the ground for this one, with the foot across, it's not a good idea to have a ball under my knee and then try to cross my leg over. It would be kind of difficult on my back. So try to feel where it works for you. Block underfoot or foot on floor, and then lift up at the chest. Feel the belly move with the breath. Hook that right elbow to the left leg, and then find that spinal column awareness, right? You've got a spine. The spine roundabout here. So left hand goes back. Yeah, this side feels a little more transfixed on holding. So if you want to try to hold the sandbag handle, you can reach around your waist and see if you can find it. But sometimes you have to back up and just get a hold of it with your right hand helping, get it to the left hand. And then there it goes, and you can turn. Okay, now some of us might be foot on the block. Right hand holding. Without the ball under the knee or with the ball. This one works either way, with the knee in the ball or no, not the ball under the left feet, but under the right. So when you turn, you're going to feel that circulation in the torso. So you could make it a little more understated, right? You can let your head lean down just a little bit, in breath, and then exhale, feel that twist. Right, left hip might feel like it's a little bit up. So I'm trying to get grounded in both sitting bones here when I twist. Even the left one. It's faint though, it's not quite as deep as the right. Okay, so give the focus finally if the abdominals, the lower belly, the connection to the pelvic floor even, feel the lower belly push out with the inhale, and on the exhalation, lift up the heart and turn. See if you can use your own skill of assessing that awareness versus a lot of pushing and prying. See if you can find that inner channel turning. It's hard. This is difficult to get that without just bracing. So relax the bracing of the right arm and just feel that you come back in center towards the front, of course. Where else are you going to go? You're not an owl, so you're not going to go the other way. And then when you come out of this one, just sweep the arm around and we'll take the sand off and we're going to turn so our feet are at the wall. So I want you to take your block away from down below, uncross, and then just turn so that your feet are to the wall and put your bolster to the side, okay? If you want a blanket, have one. Just turn the blanket so that it's under your knees, all right? Blanket might feel really good to have under the knees. You have to push it quite a bit back to have that support. And then if you have your other blanket, just push it off to the side. So you're going to walk your hands over to the right side first. So feet touch the wall. Walk my hands to the right. So my hips are going to push back to the left to start. So my hands reach to the right side, higher than the heart, right? A little higher than the heart. over to the side, and your head leans down into the arms. Breathe. Okay, now walk the hands over to the left side, reaching, right? And as the hips move back to that right side, depending on how you can space it out, feeling where the waist stretches, the torso reaches. But there's always more room to move with the hips. So if they just kind of creep a little bit farther to the back right side, just try. Brain to the arms. Okay, now walk the hands back in center on the mat. And I want you to stretch the hips forward. Now, for me, the hands are too far back towards my legs. I can't quite move my hips down. So if I stretch my hands farther forward, then I got more space to move the hips forward, the chest to lift up, the feet touch the wall. And then as I move my hips back towards the wall, stretch the upper back, head down, round the back, and lift up the chest through the arms, upward dog. All right, let's try this one leg at a time. So take a block under each hand. The blocks could be at the lowest or the second height, it's up to you. But you're going to walk the blocks in. And then bring the right foot forward as the foot steps between the blocks. Feel that extension of the left leg. I kind of think of it, I know the leg does not have a spine, but it's connected to a spine. So when I extend the left quadricep, you might have the back knee down. You might have the knee a little bit up off of the blanket, pushing into the wall. Kind of try both. In fact, do try both so that you can feel, even if my knee is on the ground, I get a really nice opening in the quad. Okay, if the foot is lifting the knee up, because I have to push into it, I've got to kind of coordinate my muscles to hold this and breathe. Nothing happens if I don't breathe, so I've got to keep that going. I would be nothing. Okay, now we're going to step into the forward fold. So I want you to scoot your right foot back so the foot is parallel. Then as you lift up the back knee, we all have a back knee lifting now. Take a moment with the lunge where your knee is off of the blanket and you're pushing into the ball of the left foot. And then push off so you have a little spring to come forward into both feet. And then I want you to try just coming up so the arms go forward of the shoulders and I come up and your hips move forward and your arms stretch back. Ooh, keep the feet pressing, keep the hips pressing forward. Open out the chest and then come back to that forward fold. So this time, as I reach the right leg back, okay, I want you to keep a reach through the heel behind you and let the knee be off of the ground to start. So you can tell when you come from a forward bend back into this, it's kind of easier, right, to get into your lunge from standing with your feet underneath you versus behind you. Like stepping into it's challenging. Stepping from the back forward. Okay, so feel as the heel reaches back. Feel that range. And now you decide, knee down or knee up, or scooting the left foot forward farther, even with the knee up. Maybe that's better for your quad to feel the stretch. Push back into the wall a little bit. Even if my knee is down, I'm still going to push into the wall. Breathing. Just elongating that front zone of the thigh. Balancing. Good. If your knee is up and you're kind of striving a lot with the energy just to hold that lift, try moving the back knee down and just keeping that openness for the quad to kind of develop that length in the front of the lumbar, right, the psoas. Okay. Good. Now let's come back with the left foot. And take your blocks off to the side, either side. I just got to put mine there so you can see. And I'm going to scoot down. So I'm first going to take that up dog one more time. So I'm going to have my blanket at the back, my feet push into the wall. I'm going to try just reaching my hips forward and elongate. Okay. All right, now I'm going to lower down. My cat does this one. She'll stretch her waist and then she'll roll onto her back. Okay, but there's no one here to pet the belly. Okay, so take the bolster down and let's try to mimic that on her back. So my feet are on the bolster right against the wall. The wall is going to be important here. My blanket could be this high. This is really high for my neck. Most of us don't want that much arch. Or actually not arch, sorry, flexing. So my feet on the bolster now, take your blocks in to the sides of the hips. Okay, hold on to your, kind of push into your hips here. Okay, not too much because they're going to be gone in a moment. Suddenly they're going to disappear. No, you're going to lift your hips up. Don't push the blocks too much yet because I still want you to have that space for your hips to lower down into. Okay, so lift and down through the spine and lower. And you can push into the hips on this one, like a little push. Breathe in, belly full. And exhale. And then scoop the tailbone a little bit under, but caution, right? You're elongating the front of the thighs. Lift the hips up. Okay, now as you lower down, I want you to just lower a little bit and then push the blocks in. Oh, I got to get my hips up again. So the blocks meet underneath the back of my pelvis. So I'm going to scoot them up a little bit so they're not under my ribs at all. They're not under my ribs. They might be at the base at the most, but the back of my pelvis is on the blocks. And then I'm going to kind of adjust my blanket so it's just under my brain stem. It's not under my shoulders at all, but center of the back of my skull. And then I'm going to center down so that my palms turn open, my shoulders roll down and in towards the spine, opening the chest. Okay, you decide, right? You could have your feet stay in this angle. If you're lucky and you're a little bit away from the wall, you can push into the wall and it's a wonderful extension here of the quad, right? If you're a little bit up on the wall with your feet, that's okay too. You might be able to maneuver it, like push the blocks a little bit back, just a little bit, get that right reach of the feet. But roll the shoulders down and in. You've got some shoulders, right? So you want to get each side to open up the chest. So even though we might be kind of focusing sometimes on pelvis and it's kind of the mixing bowl here, but the shoulders are huge, right? Support for opening up your breathing muscles, the shoulders back, you know, allowing that circulation to become focusing on breathing through the nose. Right? Nose breathing is not emergency breathing, right? Soothing. You know, keep the awareness of the chest open and slide the feet so the bottoms of the feet are on the bolster. And then as you bring the hands down to where the blocks are, you're going to push the feet down. You could also do this with your feet at the wall if you're really close to the wall. You're pushing to the wall and then lift up the hips and slide the blocks. As you slide them out, you're going to lower down through the spine. Okay, and then you're going to cross the hip here. So what I want you to play with first thing is if you have a ball, do a little bit of that massage on the glute. So the ball goes under any buttock and you're going to feel where that stretch motion occurs in the hip when you push into the ball and you let the hips go side to side, wagging your tail. It's pretty curious, the stretch motion that occurs when you have to give a little time. That was not enough time, probably, but I know not everyone has a ball, so if you don't have a ball, you would keep going. If you have a ball, massaging, you would go windshield wiper, but as you windshield wiper the knee side to side, be sure that you're concentrating on the movement crossover in the glute. It's a little bit kind of healing for the glutes here. Okay, and so I still feel that even without the ball. Okay, so now as we come out, we're going to take the bolster that's under our feet and then just push it over to the right side of your mat. Now, if you're one that does hip crossovers without the bolster on the side, go right ahead. You can have your feet on the bolster, left leg over, knees over towards the right. Otherwise, my demo is bolster on the side of my mat and cross the left leg over to that bolster. Add a ball to the sacrum. And if you have sand, place it on the side of the left thigh. But if no sand, still it's going to be a great stretch. And you might even find different ways that you have the greatness of the stretch without the sand, meaning you're really opening up at the chest. Your right hand might be on the left thigh, inviting that leg to motion to the right to stretch out through the back. And since it's still a twist, right, we want the abdominals to move with the breath, not just the ribs to be pushed out. We kind of fixate on inside movement with breath. Okay, so letting your head roll if it feels okay. If you want to keep it centered, after a few moments, you could go back to that centering of your head, or try head turning left or right. Just simply experience the chest open. Okay, now when we take a switch to the second side, first reflect on what feels the reach on this side without holding your belly in, right? Just kind of feel, oh, okay, there's a little pull on my hip. That's good for me. Good to have that circulation. And so when you slide any sand and you switcheroo your position to the other leg, you'll know, right? If you have your feet on the bolster, you can bring the feet to the bolster, cross the right leg over the left. If you've got your bolster on the right side of the mat, you just move it over to the other side. And the lower leg is a little bent. So I find that because you can tell that the one that we all of us used to do would be both legs are bent. So there's no reason that lower leg should be straight in any way on this one. So let it just go with the flow, right? Feel the circulation balance through the back into the legs, and maybe the ball at the sacrum. Right, you really want to soak in the final spinal, right? So you get all the goods. And then the sand goes to the side of the right thigh, perhaps. Yeah. Sometimes the sand gets kind of bulky on one end of it, so you might have to have a little bit of a tug of your sand tugging. And then as you turn to the right, you might have your hand resting on your torso, on the leg, on the floor. And as you turn your head either direction or in the center, relax your breath. From exhalation comes relaxation, right? So we kind of emphasize a full exhale. And then a gradual required inhale for living. Now feeling that weight into the bottom hip. Obviously, some of us with sand, there's weight on the top leg that transfers into the bottom leg. And then when you let that body slide the sand away, I want you to get a moment where you let the knees shift back in center, press into your feet, and just feel the back of the pelvis with the ground under it, right? The firm floor. Okay? Feel how the spine is in a different relationship here. And then when you do roll to either side, if you roll left a lot, right, you're going to roll to the right to have some balance. And you're going to take your bolster right up next to the wall. Okay? Push it right there. And then slide your blanket. If it was in a really low fold, somehow I got away with that one with a little fold. I'm happy about that. And my neck isn't comfy with that, but try to have the blanket pretty low. You know, this one is, I want to make it all restful. So the blanket's in a quarter fold for me. But you're going to sit on the edge, the short edge of your bolster. Bolster should be packed right next to the wall. And then you're going to roll under with the shoulder and swing the legs up. Sometimes you swing the legs up and you fall off the bolster. It just happens. So your work is on lifting the hips, using the feet at the wall, and then tuck the tailbone and try to move the seat closer towards the wall. It is definitely not any accomplishment if you have your seat at the wall. It's not like it has to happen to get the benefits here. I find that the verticality is the important part, and there's definitely some teachings where there's a bolster between the legs and the wall so that you really feel that verticality straight up. So you can always try that kind of thing. It takes a little bit to get it all set up, though. It's almost as if you have to tape the bolster against the wall. And so the feet have sand. If you don't have sand on your feet, I recommend you take a belt around the legs and buckle up and make it pretty firm. So the legs feel like there's something that's going to create contentment and connection in the legs. So the sand or a belt. You don't have to do both. Let the spine have its natural curve. Like the last few moments, we had the pelvis on the firm ground. Now it has that elevation. It's a nice sense of stretch, arms relaxing below the level of your heart, slowing down, if you haven't already from being here. And just notice where your attention is reserved. It could be in kind of a scattering of thoughts here, of plans, but see if you can just let the body feel the breath. Receive the pose. The circulation benefit here is immense, right? For the heart, the brain, right? The respiratory system. So if you're not congested at all, this is a good one to celebrate. Like I can feel my breath moving through my nose. I can relax my mouth. The filter is working into my lungs. So you get a deeper stretch into the lungs. Breathing in through the nose. Feel the abdominals in motion. reversing that prolapse, right? When the legs are upside down. And you might let your head nod from side to side if you don't have an eye pillow on, but you can feel just the nuance of movement through the neck, the weight of your head back. So that we've taken a little bit of time to move the blood from the extremities back to the organs. It takes minutes, right? It doesn't happen in a snap. And so the feet might get a little cool or tingly. You know that's happening. If it's that way, it's a good sign. But you don't want to lose the muscular ability in the legs if they go to sleep, right? So you're going to shift the feet a little bit away from the wall, just a tiny bit away. Feel that reach in the legs, yet the hips are conveniently balancing here. Got to get my hips balanced. It's a good way to do it, right? To get in a balance for the hips with the bolster lifting up the pelvi. The legs have weight. When you stand on the feet, it feels like you've got weight, right? When you stand upright. So this is a really interesting one that we can get our posture fairly balanced because we don't have our brain overhead and our habits. Okay, so see if as you bend the knees, you can look at them or not, but feel a little separation. And then I like to let the weight kind of move, trickle up my back a little bit, bend the knees. And so I feel like it's almost a leg press. So there's definitely some heat in the hips. Okay, now take the sand, you can drop it overhead or make it a little quieter off to your side. Hold the backs of the legs behind the knees. Cradle the back of the spine to elongation. Okay, and then completing, right? So feeling as you roll to the side, cuddle up, and then push to come up. Okay, and take a moment together. So just allowing yourself to be in this, kind of virtual community and awareness, this network that we're in to support our practice. And let the hands rest on the thighs and feeling just the wellness inside, kind of that brilliance from practice. It might be really subdued. I think it's a pretty subdued sensation. With clarity, hands in front of the heart, and still a slow breath together. Breathing in for wellness for others. And exhale, bowing into that space behind your heart. And gratitude.